All right, come on in, come on in, come on in, come on in. Let's talk about it. Come on in. We got a special guest, man. Happy Saturday to everybody, man. It's a blessed Saturday, man. Look, we got all types of news, man, that's taking place. You guys already know it's the Big Ten stuff, man, that's taking place. Yesterday, Washington and Oregon was involved with this. And we got a special guest who happens to cover Washington, who happened to play for Washington. And I'm kind of going to have to reintroduce him because since he's been on last time, we got about 3,000 more subscribers than what it was last time. I think it was only about 1,000 subscribers. We got a guy by the name of Terry Hollimon, play running back. Terry, can you just reintroduce yourself, man?
What's up, everybody, man? Thank you guys for joining us here on this Saturday. Incredible Saturday. My name is Terry Hollimon. Again, I played for the University of Washington. I was there in 93, 98. I played running back there during a time when we had some of the great running backs of all time in the Pac-12, Pac-10 at that time history. And, now I cover the Huskies for the local Fox station here in Seattle. Heavily involved in the program as well. I'm just glad to be here with my boy Jay, man. We've been going back, man, almost. I don't want to tell him how many years we've been going back, brother, but yeah.
Hey, Terry is family to me, man. His family's my family. His mom is like my aunt, man. So it's much love with Big T, man. So look, we want to get into this real quick. T, man, yesterday, and let me get back into this real quick because it's some coming on. I see they coming on right now. Just so you can let those know, like I said, I had to reintroduce you. You play with guys like, can you just give a brief summary of who you play with? Guys like Lawyer Malloy.
Yeah. So Lawyer Malloy, obviously, he's my best friend, and we've been partners for almost about 30, going on 30 years, more than 30 years now. Lawyer Malloy played 15 years in the NFL. He's New England Patriots, on the all-time New England Patriots greatest team. He was my roommate in college. But I always say that I played running back at the University of Washington at the best and the worst time to be a running back in the history of the University of Washington. The best time is because we had the best running backs probably in the conference during that time. And I say it's the worst time because there was only one running back in the game at the time. So you're talking about my first 2 years, Napoleon Kaufman. Those of you who follow the Los Angeles Raiders know that he had an incredible stint with the Raiders, first-round draft pick. Also the same class as Corey Dillon, who is one of the all-time great running backs in the National Football League, along with other Southern California greats like Rashawn Sheehy, Leon Neal, Bino Bryant. Those are the guys that I played with during my time at University of Washington.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, T, thank you for that, man, that brief introduction. So, look, yesterday, man, we had the shocking news, and it's kind of been leading up to that. And I brought you on last year, and we were talking about, how the memories with USC, Washington, and how these guys always got many memories together. But now the thing has been a catastrophic shift yesterday, man. So what was your initial thoughts when everything took place yesterday, hearing the news that Washington and Oregon would be shifting?
I got to be honest with you, Jarvis. At first, I was angry. I was angry the same way that I was when I heard that USC and UCLA were leaving the Pac-12. My initial thoughts were, man, it's just so much tradition, so much history being thrown out the window, and for what? You know what I'm saying? I remember fondly the days of growing up watching the Pac-12 and watching those competitions on the weekend between USC and Washington and USC and UCLA, and it was all just being destroyed, right? And now these guys are going out to the Midwest to play with some of those teams that we normally would only see in the Rose Bowl, right? In big games when it would be like USC versus, Michigan or Iowa or something like that. And it was all gone out the window. And then I started to really think about it. I was like, the Pac-12 has really done a disservice to itself, the conference. The people who are in control of the conference, they let this thing get away from them. They didn't do the right things at the right time, and slowly but surely it slipped away from them. And it turned into a situation where who's going to be the last man standing in the Pac-12? Yeah. USC's gone. UCLA is gone. Two of the marquee programs in the Pac-12. Then the writing was on the wall. Colorado bounced out of here, and Colorado was like the bottom feeders, right? I know they had Dion, but they bounced. Yeah. And so it became a situation where, it had to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about it, and we can kind of stay on that about the leadership of the Pac-12, man, they had ample opportunity. Larry Scott, man, you know, this thing was presented when Oklahoma and Texas before they went to the SEC. They had an opportunity to get to get those two teams, and he completely dropped the ball on that. And then come to find out, a lot of people were blaming it on Larry Scott, which he is partly to blame. But now Kliavkoff, which is the current commissioner, he had an opportunity last year. It was presented to him to possibly merge these conferences, and he failed to do so. And then after everything transpired this week, he came back and I guess allegedly said that, can we do it now? So he was literally lost in the lake sauce. What's your thoughts on that? This conference, it probably could have been saved, man. What's your thoughts on that?
I'll say once the initial feelings of anger and sadness and disappointment, left, I started looking at things logically.
Yeah.
And it was a big, huge mismanagement on everybody's part. And when it comes to the Pac-12, when it comes to Larry Scott, when it comes to the current commissioner, it was a lot of mismanagement and arrogance. I mean,
absolutely.
You look at the Pac-12, and I think they just thought that they had, the name and it was going to be a breadwinner just because we had some of the best programs historically in the country here in the Pac. And rather than taking care of these teams and these programs the way that they should have been taken care of when we had the opportunity to take care of them, they didn't do it. And I think you look at, the landscape of college football across the country, the big wigs, of course, we're talking about the Big 10, the Big 12, even the ACC, the SEC. The Pac-12 was last when it came to taking care of its programs.
Like, it's so crazy.
You see the money that's been floating around here, right? You see the television programs and the media money that's been floating around the country at schools that aren't even nearly as competitive as a USC or a Washington or an Oregon. It made no sense for us to stay.
Absolutely. It made no sense. And then when you look at the TV rights deal, it came out just a couple days ago. First of all, he had a Mickey Mouse operation that he presented, which was Apple TV in the streaming service. Who streams? I heard somebody say it's like going selling Boy Scout cookies in front of Walmart or something.
It's worse than that, man. When I heard about that was their angle, Apple TV, it's disgusting. That's a slap in the face, really. And that's not to really degrade Apple TV because Apple TV has its place. I have Apple TV, but I don't turn on Apple TV every day, like every Saturday, clicking on to see what's popping on there. I'm going to stream a movie or a series or something like that. I'm not going to watch sporting events on Apple TV. And I think I was really, again, thinking about it, pondering it, like, how many people out there, I'm sure the numbers, I don't have them right in front of me. I'm sure the numbers are fine for a streaming service, but how many people out there actually have Apple TV? How many people
exactly? I don't have it.
How many people have it? And then you think about some of the kids that grow up watching college football and dreaming about being on that screen, on that field, at that program, because you could just turn on ABC and watch it, or you could turn on NBC and watch it. Yeah. Now there are kids across the country that obviously are not going to have Apple TV and not going to have an opportunity to watch an Oregon State or an Oregon or somebody in the Pac-12 because they're on Apple TV. And I don't even think the deal is going through right now. They're not, there's nothing signed and sealed and delivered with the Apple TV.
Right.
It's just whack.
It's whack. And so what happened was Apple TV, they were offering them, and keep in mind, the Big 12 currently, when Colorado, they exited, they were at, I think the Big 12 as a whole, $31.5 million is what they're supposed to be getting. Apple TV offered the Pac-12 $20 million. $20 million. And so what happened now is the Big 10, and a lot of people say, well, they're not coming in at 50%. They're coming at less than 50%, Oregon and Washington, but they're coming in at $35 to $40 million, which is still more money. Still more money than what the Big 10, what the Big 12 is offering. And so to lowball them with the $20 million, that's just, I don't know where they got this commissioner from and what was his thinking, what was his process in this, man. What's your thought on the money being offered, that money?
I mean, again, it's been a slap in the face with the Pac-12 has been offering the programs here that have been really holding it down for decades. And you look at the money that's been presented by the Big Ten, it's unbelievable. Even before the
Yeah,
new media contract kicks in, the Washington Huskies are going to get more money than they were going to receive from this new Pac-12 media deal. And so, just to give you a little insight, I was speaking to a friend of mine, an associate, a source, we'll call it,
yeah,
who is on the board of regents and was involved in this decision
yeah.
to make the switch. I spoke with them last night, and it gave me a new perspective, and it was one of the things that really helped to calm me and ease me into this situation that we're in. At the end of the day, it's about providing resources for the student athletes
Absolutely.
and keeping a program, you know, fundamentally sound. Even though you hear these things about, oh, it's $20 million being offered by the Pac-12, you know these numbers, when you compare them to what's going out there in the country, um, it's peanuts. And then you have to think about the longevity of this situation. Even though the Washington Huskies and the Oregon Ducks are not coming in fully vested, they will be increasing annually. They get an increase annually of $1 million every year
Every year.
until the new contract kicks in.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
again, that's way more money that they're going to
Way
receive
more
in
money.
the current situation.
Yeah.
And another thing is that they're allowed to borrow against future earnings after the media contract kicks in.
That right
So
there, I did not know that.
yeah,
I did not
so
know,
yeah,
which is going to be big for travel
oh,
expenses
huge.
in the event that they had to.
Huge. I mean, in the event that they had to, which I don't foresee them having to, because they've been operating pretty well before this, right?
Yeah.
Now they're going to have an opportunity to have access to more capital, more money. We're going to open up our entire fan base now to an entirely new fan base, which
Yeah.
is going to create more revenue, in my opinion. And I think it's just a win-win situation for the Huskies for sure. It's just sad to see the tradition go away. But one thing that has to remain constant in life is change. So we got to have to, roll with this change and just create a new tradition and create a new history.
Absolutely. And so let's talk real quick about that tradition because, a lot of people think, oh, we're going to the Big Ten. This is going to be a significant change when you're talking about on a regular basis. However, the Rose Bowl, I mean, this is going to be like playing a Rose Bowl game every single week. And so
Yep.
these programs they're not unfamiliar with each other. I don't know. Did you play any? I can't remember. I know you played some big games, but did you play in any Rose Bowls?
We didn't play here. So when I came to UW, we got put on probation my first 2 years.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we weren't allowed to be in any bowls for 2 years. And then
Okay.
our first year off probation, we won the Pac-10 championship. We actually shared the Pac-10 championship. I think with SC.
Yeah,
And yep. And so they took SC to the Rose Bowl that year
yeah,
because we were the team that went last.
yeah, yeah.
And so I didn't get to go to the Rose Bowl, but we did play some big games. That year, we actually played Iowa. Big
Your
Ten.
quarterback was Brock. Was it Heward?
Heward. I played with both Heward quarterbacks, Damon Heward and Brock Heward.
And Brock Heward. Okay, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. So
And
yeah,
so,
we did play against Iowa. We played against Ohio State a couple times in the regular season. We played Ohio State 3 years while I was at University of Washington.
yeah, yeah. Which I mean, those teams traditionally, those are pretty tough teams. So, what do you think going? I mean, being that you've had the experience playing Big Ten teams, what do you think the expectations, and what do you think that what are your expectations? Let me just say that first before we talk about the physical play. How do you think that'll translate to recruiting and all that?
So first and foremost, I got to say this. The tradition that we've had here in the Pac-12 has been incredible since the beginning. We're talking about over a century worth of history, a century worth of incredible athletes, incredible programs, Heisman Trophy winners, you name it, we've had it here, national champions, okay? But Throughout the course of my time of being a Pac-12 player, an ex-Pac-10 player, I've always had this argument with other guys across the country about which conference, has the best football players. The West Coast players. Are we better than the guys that are down south in Texas and Florida and Georgia and stuff like that? So my interpretation has always been, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, right?
Yeah.
So now we could take all the speculation out of it. We could take all the guesswork out of it. We're going to be there week in and week out. It's going to be the guys from USC and Washington and Oregon going head to head with the guys from Ohio and Wisconsin and back east. And so we're going to get a chance to see now. We don't have to guess. We don't have to have a poll and say who's the best. We're going to get to go head to head and bang it out and see what it is. So I'm ready for that. I think that's going to be great for the actual players. We don't have to, we can do that, but we're going to show between the lines who's the better players. And ultimately, what is going to happen is going to open up the recruiting market so much. I think you look at some of these guys out Midwest. So what has been happening traditionally is the guys out in the Midwest, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Wisconsins, their games come on 2 hours ahead of ours, right? 3 hours ahead of ours. So by the time they get done watching their games, they shut the TV off and they never watch USC.
It's
they
crazy.
Never watch Washington.
Thanks to the Pac-12 network too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So now there's going to be a reason for them to watch the games because now Ohio State needs USC to lose this game this weekend so that they can make their way to CFP, right? So now everybody in the Midwest is watching the USC Washington game because there's consequences. And now kids are going to become fans of Washington, fans of USC, fans of Oregon who have never seen them before because now they're looking like, oh, these guys really play ball out there.
Yeah.
Look how they look out there. Look at the fan base. Look at the stadium. Look at LA, the Coliseum, man. I want to be there. So I think it's going to be a cool thing.
Yeah, and they say in boxing that styles make fights, right? We seen Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford last weekend, and I think this style, with the air raid, especially I know with Lincoln Riley coming, and then look, they got you guys got Michael Penix Jr. just slinging that ball everywhere, man. I think traditionally, that's him. Yeah, traditionally, that's what the Pac-12 football is. They gunslingers. You're gonna have the good skill players. You're going to have the good quarterbacks. You're going to have the good receivers. They're going to have to change some of the style. A lot of people say that we're going to have to change the style, but they're going to have to change up some stuff as well when you talk about skill position-wise because you're not going to just – if you think you're just going to be able to hold a guy that's just running a 4.2 and could blow right by you and you're going to have a 6 foot, 230-pound cornerback, you must be crazy. You're going to have to come with it, man. What's your thoughts on that aspect of it?
I think you're 100% right. I think a lot of things are going to have to change. We're going to have to even the playing field in a lot of different areas. They say, in this league, especially in Division I major college football, there's going to be a lot of imitation, right? Imitation is, I see these high flights for a while. Like for instance, back in the day, it was very trendy for Oregon. They were the first ones to come out and do the no-huddle stuff and fly by everybody, right? And nobody could find a way to stop that. Well, guess what? People start imitating that because they found out that it worked. So now you got some of these teams back east in the Midwest who are normally, 4 yards in a cloud of dust, right? We're just going to get these big bully offensive linemen, big strong defensive linemen, and big strapping strong running backs and grind it out. And you're going to get these guys out on the West Coast who like to fly around and do all this stuff. Somehow, some way, they're going to have to figure out how to stop each other. And so maybe, like you said, the guys out West are going to have to go out there and recruit some of those big, burly, tough guys, right? To play defensive line, to play offensive line, to be the big bruising running backs. But on the flip side of that, they're going to have to figure out some guys that are going to be able to cover some of our 4-2 receivers, some of these running backs that are doing these incredible moves and doing this and that. And I think it's going to get, parity is going to have to come into play at some point, and these teams are going to have to start figuring out how to beat each other.
Absolutely. And I'm going to answer this question, but to your point, I think Alabama found that out when they played against Tennessee, and Tennessee put up, 52 to 40 something this year. I mean, you just had to keep up. It was a game of keeping up. Let me answer this question. What's Terry's thoughts on UW trajectory for this season? I'm expecting a good season. What's your thought?
For this season, this team is looking pretty good, man. You think about them this past season, they were 11-2. They surprised everybody. I don't think anybody expected them to be that good. Man. Michael Penix at the helm throwing the ball. This kid had Heisman-type numbers last year, right? And he came out of nowhere. I think he's going to be better this year. You have a couple of receivers that are the best in the country.
Absolutely.
You have two of the best in the country on one team in Rome Odunze and Jalen McMillan. They're going to be high flying. They're going to be. They got some guys up front on offense that can block and are candidates for postseason awards. So that's going to be good. The question is going to be, can the defense keep up with that high flying offense? And I think they've done some things to put some guys in position to be good defensively. I think up front they got some good veterans on the defensive line that are going to be okay. They got a good solid linebacker in the middle by the name of Edifon Ulufushio. And he's pretty good. Yeah, and I think so. If they can get everything dialed in with the secondary and keep everybody injury-free, I think the Huskies have a really good chance to be in the CFP.
Let me ask you, you guys had an edge rusher, man. He was highly recruited. I think he just transferred. He transferred to Colorado. What was his name? Is it LaFell or Fell? I can't remember his name. I think he transferred to Colorado. But I was trying to find out.
I think the edge rusher we had last year that was really good, that is up for some postseason awards, his name is Braylon Trice.
Yeah.
And he'll be back. And the Huskies have the edge rushers are going to be good this year. Again, like I said,
I've seen they have some big time edge rushers. So as far as and we're gonna try to wrap it up. We're not gonna keep everybody long, but as far as that's his name, Smalls. I think his name is
Smalls. Yeah. So
he was Smalls.
Here's the thing about Smalls. I'm sorry. So he did transfer. He went to Colorado. So here's the deal for Savell Smalls.
I was trying to figure out because he was highly recruited.
He was a 5-star athlete coming out of high school. He was one of the most coveted athletes in the country. But just to this point in his career at Washington, he hadn't panned out. He hadn't put up a bunch of numbers. He was having trouble getting off of blocks. I think what happened, and again, hopefully things really work out for the kid because I like him a lot.
Yeah.
When he was in high school, he was just bigger and faster than everybody. He dominated everybody.
Yeah.
And he just didn't project out the way they hoped he would. And you think about this, he had gone through a couple of different coaching staffs. You think he was first with Coach Peterson, and he didn't get a whole lot of run under that regime. Then he came in with Jimmy Lake.
Yeah.
Still didn't get a lot of run under that regime. And then now under the most previous DeBoer, the last coaching staff with DeBoer in them, he still wasn't getting the type of run. So to go through 3 different coaches and they didn't find something that they could utilize in you, I think that the writing was on the wall. And again, I hope something pans out good for him in Colorado because I think he's a good kid.
Yeah, he has quite a bit of potential, man. Definitely. Chris Heyman, hey, thank you very much. He said, what's up, Chad? Continue to support the channel, USCJs, and the personal insider for people and giving insights. Hey, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate you. Now, real quick, I noticed that I seen this list in Big Ten National Championships. They're including Washington with that. I'm just going to name some of the teams. A lot of people don't realize Oregon is totally opposite as it relates to Washington as far as national championships. When you look at the national championships that coming from the Pac-12, you got UCLA with 1, you got USC with 7, and then you got Washington with 2. You know, I tried to argue this point with a lot of people, man, that the Pac-12, they did have guys that had teams that had national champions, and USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon doesn't have 0. The 0 stands for absolutely 0 championship. So leave that 0 and get with this hero. Right?
That's right.
Right about that. What's your thoughts on that? Well, let me say this. Ohio State has 7, Michigan 6, 5 Nebraska, Iowa 7, Washington 2, Penn State 2, UCLA 1, Maryland 1, Illinois 1, Minnesota 1, and Michigan 1. So Washington is up there ahead of Michigan. They're up there ahead of Maryland, up there ahead right there with Penn State. What's your thoughts on that, man? It's not like Washington's not bringing anything to the table from a national championship perspective.
Bro, we are bringing a lot to the table. You think about Washington and its history. Again, we have a couple of national championships. We have teams that have been in position to win national championships. And this is before we had the college football playoff system. You know what I'm saying? And back then, it was just a matter of, you know, voters and polls. And then finally, we got a chance to do the head-to-head with the college football championship situation. So now I think everything is being reset. Now that we're being put there in the Big Ten, we're going to have a competition head-to-head. And we're going to get a chance to see who are the best. And hopefully, we'll start to play more teams that are in the SEC and the ACC, and so that now people can see this. For the longest time, it was always the Pac-12 beating up on the Pac-12, so that we never got an opportunity to make our way into the national conversation, right?
And
because
they
USC plays Washington,
man. Yeah,
USC plays Washington, USC plays Utah, USC plays Oregon, USC. You know, we got all these teams to beat up on each other every single week, week in and week out. Somebody's going to take an L. And when you take that L, you're out of the conversation, right? So now we're going to be in the mix with some of those other teams that get mentioned every year, the Ohio States, the Michigans, and the teams like that. So now we're going to get a chance to play. Hopefully we'll get a chance to play some more SEC teams and we end this whole speculation and argument thing and handle it between the lines.
Absolutely. So from top to bottom now, when you look at this conference, and I'm gonna pull it up, I'm gonna name these teams. Of course, USC, Iowa, Oregon, Nebraska, UCLA, Washington, Michigan, Michigan State, Northwestern, Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Penn State, Purdue, Maryland, Rutgers, Indiana. When you look at that, from top to bottom, do you think this is you know, they're gonna probably try to argue that, but do you think this is the best conference right now from top to bottom?
I think it's hard to argue the fact that they are not. You look at the SEC. Who's the best in the ACC? You're talking about Alabama,
SEC,
Georgia.
Alabama.
That's hard. That the top of the SEC is a juggernaut. You can't deny that. Alabama, Georgia,
and that's
Tennessee.
That's it. And Tennessee they just really coming on the scene last year.
Yeah, Tennessee is hit and miss, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you got the top two at the SEC that are really juggernauts, that are really tough. Right now, if you're looking at the Big Ten, that's to me, that's death row, man. That's death row. That's Ohio State, USC, Washington, Oregon,
Penn State,
Nebraska, Wisconsin. I mean, Penn State.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's crazy.
It's probably the toughest.
And I will throw LSU in there, man. But look, so we gonna wrap it up. I didn't want to keep you that long today, but look, this one question: as far as the conference and everything, what is your bucket list? What will be your bucket list as far as the places you want to go, as it relates to different stadiums, man? Because these are some the short horseshoe. You got the big house. You got several different stadiums. What will be yours?
So I'll tell you like this. I played in the horseshoe. I've been to the horseshoe.
Yeah.
It's an incredible stadium. Like, it's breathtaking to see the immense size of it and the fan base, how they do their thing. So as a fan, I would love to go there as a fan and watch that.
Yeah.
That would be incredible.
Yeah.
The big house. I would love to go to Michigan. I've never been to Michigan, so that would be cool to go out there and see that stadium as well. I think those will be the top two in the conference for sure.
Same here.
Yeah. I played in Iowa. I played against Iowa in the Hawkeye Stadium.
How was the weather when you went? Could you hear a lot of people talking about the weather? How was the weather when you went out there?
So when we went, it was pretty warm. So when I went, it was like in September, I think, when we played in Ohio State. So it was still pretty warm out there. So I didn't get a chance to see. I mean, when you talk about weather, I don't know if you're talking about the snow and that part. So
was it a blizzard?
I didn't get a chance to experience that. Thank God. Knock on wood. But I think, when you're talking about that, I think it could be a factor. I think it could be an issue. But again, it's the same thing as here in Washington. When it gets to be October, November, it gets rainy, as you know here. And that always affects every game, especially when you got guys coming up from Arizona, Southern California, trying to play in a situation where it's 55 degrees and it's raining sideways. So
Yeah.
we're gonna have to deal with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. So T, man, this is my brother, man. This is family to me. I definitely appreciate you tapping in, man. I didn't want to go no longer. This 30 minutes, man. I just wanted to tap in with you. Everything happened yesterday. I just wanted to get some feedback from you and just your initial thought coming from a Washington guy, man. A lot of people had questions, and so I think it's very fitting. Christopher, just know my newborn son will be hopefully a Trojan one day. But for now, my dad. Hey, absolutely. Hey, man. Hey, congratulations. I forgot about that. Congratulations on that baby, man. Definitely congratulations.
Congratulations, man.
And so look, T,
I gotta say this before we get out of here, Jay.
Oh yeah.
And just so all you USC fans notice, man. You know, I grew up watching USC. I grew up watching the greats, the running backs you guys had coming through there from, you know, Charles White to OJ to Ed to Reggie Bush. And USC has always been one of my favorite programs in the country, man. And to this day, outside of Husky Stadium, my favorite place to play football at. I used to love to come down and play in the Coliseum on that grass in front of those fans. And even though I had to hear that, obnoxious fight song every 5 seconds, I still loved it, man. It was just such an honor to play, and I thank you guys for having me here and having me on the show today.
Hey, man, hey, it's much love to you, T. And look, during the season, I think this game is going to be crazy, man. I don't know. Are you going to LA for the game?
I'm hoping I can get down there. I'm hoping I can get down there.
We will connect if you go. We will connect, man. But look, hey, we definitely appreciate Terry taking out his day, man. For those who don't know, we got about 93 people in here right now. That T is who you work? Is it Channel 5? Who do you work for in Seattle?
So I was doing the Husky show on Fox 13, and then I do a daytime talk show on Channel 5 NBC, King 5 NBC here.
Right, and he's an ex Washington Husky running back, man. So we definitely appreciate him taking out his time, man. Look, until later on, you guys already know it's a scrimmage today, so I will be bringing you guys some information back as soon as it comes to me, man. Listen, until later on, everybody stay blessed. Continue to fight on, and go Dogs.
Go Dogs.